Here in the bottom left, we have none other than Infinity 7's CrazyMoving, the purple Zerg. He was a hero of a lot of weekly daily cups for a while. People didn't know who he was. Him, Mentalist, a bunch of other people from Infinity 7 were these big players. But now he's here in NASL, struggling a little bit. He needs this win. I can't emphasize that enough. If he does, he falls really far behind Division, especially if he goes down 0-2. Up against this guy, man who's had a lot of momentum, and DeMuslim's just been playing very well in NASL. And he's currently 3-0. He is from Team Evil Geniuses. He demanded blue as his colors. Like, blue is my color. I want it. And DeMuslim, I mean, if blue is what makes him play really well, then I gotta start playing blue too. I always pick orange.
Do you really?
Yeah, you know why?
Why?
Because orange is statistically the least light color across the globe. They took like psychological surveys from like 100 countries, and orange is like the least light color, and I felt so bad. So I started picking orange for everything. I wear orange shirts. I have orange sunglasses, which you saw.
Yeah, you look really good.
And I have an orange pen at the bottom of my desk right here.
Did you know that orange actually makes you want to eat more?
I thought it was red.
No, it was orange.
And red.
I don't think red.
Really? But I thought it's like every Chinese restaurant has red because that way
that's because
it's like a sign of good luck, and also it's like
have you seen the Chinese flag? I'm pretty sure they did it after the flag. It's just red. There's nothing but red.
Okay.
You think there's yellow there? It's an optical illusion. It's just red. Yeah, there's a lot of orange in Bitter's house, actually.
That's true. That's true. Because, I don't know, it's true. Bitter's house is pretty baller, but we're not here to talk about Bitter's house. We're here to talk about this game. DeMuslim, he is opening up the same way he did last game with a really fast command center. And CrazyMoving, of course, going for that hatchery pool, as most Zergs have been. Now, Daybreak, the openings are still similar, but the mid-game, how it plays out will be a lot different, especially if DeMuslim chooses to go for Reactive Hellions the way he is. He did double gas, so very similar again, and wouldn't be surprised to do that. But Hellions are not nearly as effective on Daybreak compared to Belshir Beach, especially with creep spread, because you're not able to really deny it as simply, especially if Zerg goes for 4 clean.
See, it's interesting. I think Hellions give you... Okay, Hellions are a must, I think, on this map, because it gives you some sort of way to push out. It's really ineffective, in my opinion, to go for a marine tank type of push on this map, just because you're basically broadcasting to the world once you pass one Xel'Naga tower that you're doing this push, right? It's very inefficient in that manner. On top of that, well, I guess it kind of leads into, because your opponent knows that you're not doing Hellions, he can easily go for some sort of huge drone pump. I mean, he knows he doesn't, or he or she knows he doesn't have to. I'm falling into the trap. The player knows, the Zerg player knows that they don't have to worry about any shenanigans like that. So I think Hellions are a must no matter what on this map, just to at least say you can attack your opponent.
Yeah, I understand completely what you're saying. So maybe we'll see a little bit of that, but for now, we'll see how DeMuslim chooses to follow up, because there's a lot of possibilities to follow up the first 2 Hellions. I mean, you could even lift off immediately and transition to Marine Tank, but you're saying you don't really necessarily like that. But CrazyMoving also, he's opening up very similar. He's making a lot of Zerglings initially. He did this last time, but he wasn't that effective because he met the 2 Hellions head on. And we'll see if CrazyMoving is going to push out aggressively this time, but again, that's a lot of Zerglings for this early in the game.
Honestly, this should scare DeMuslim a little bit here. There's a lot of Zerglings out, a little bit more than last time. I believe it was 4 more Zerglings than last game.
Yes.
When he sees this many Zerglings, instantly in his head, he has to think, okay, my opponent can Banelink bust me. Actually, go to the DeMuslim cam. This is a very fast gas right here for his STV scout. So DeMuslim knows I could potentially be Banelink busted. And I think he should prepare for something like that. Going out into the middle map would be quite risky, and I think that's why his first 2 Hellions are just chilling over here. They're not doing anything crazy because he needs to be careful in case these Zerglings and Banelings are inbound.
Yeah, actually, I've been watching a lot of Korean streams, and this is a build that some Zergs have been experimenting because they know Terrans get a little bit greedy in terms of SimCity, and they can just run by, which is exactly what CrazyMoving is doing. Players like Boom Boom have been doing this a lot. But a good catch here from DeMuslim to make sure the Zerglings don't get in the main base, but still, CrazyMoving is now in, at least at the natural, denying some mining time. How will DeMuslim choose to respond? He's calling back his Hellions in full force, and those Zerglings are, their days are numbered.
Fried to a crisp, but there goes every single Zergling. And a very nice trade for DeMuslim overall, but I guess CrazyMoving did do a little bit of harass, so I would say overall, obviously DeMuslim has the advantage from that, but CrazyMoving by no means is super far behind from that attack. I do think he overdroned though, heavily. Actually, I know
60 drones.
60 drones.
Oh man,
okay,
he doesn't have. He has one Zergling, 60 drones against these Hellions. Now DeMuslim, he is really far on creep, and that could make him a little uneasy. But CrazyMoving also has some pretty decent Sim City, and keep in mind, Queens have 5 range, putting them on equal range with Hellions. So it's not like Hellions can really kite the Queens whatsoever. Yeah. So DeMuslim just pretty much has to keep these Hellions in a more defensive, or sorry, a more containing response to these defensive Queens. Nonetheless, CrazyMoving, he's getting a Baneling Nest this time, and he's now back into full Zergling production. So changing up his build a little bit from game number 1.
I want to bring up some interesting math/statistics. For 2-base, you actually need 2 hatcheries and constant larva injects to spend off of 1 base when you're when you're maximum saturated. So now that he has 2 bases, he needs at least 4 hatcheries to do that very same thing. If he just wants to use Zerglings, but obviously he doesn't have that. He's going to spike up in a ton of minerals and gas just because he can't spend all of them.
Oh yeah, that's true, but at the same time, CrazyMoving has to be really cautious. Some of his queens are getting pretty low, and doesn't obviously want to lose them, especially with the queen range. He doesn't actually have to go and fight those Hellions. The big thing for DeMuslim, though,
yeah, these Banshees doing so much work over here. The Queen, oh my God, the Queen goes down. There are 3 other Queens, though, and that'll do a lot. Meanwhile, those Hellions finally get picked off to the Zerglings. Yeah. And DeMuslim, I don't know what he was doing. He wasn't actually, watching his units. He did lose one of the Banshees, and he will lose the other one, it looks like.
Yeah, wow, the second one drops, which means DeMuslim's ability to really harass Zerg and pressure his 3rd attempt is nil. No worries though, DeMuslim's got everything else back in order. He's getting his 2nd factory, his 3rd is really complete. He even picked up a Raven this time around.
Love that.
I really like the Raven.
I think Ravens are one of the most underused units. You'll see this in so many different casts too. Everybody says that Ravens are so good. Ravens are so good. Nobody gets it still.
Morrow gets it.
Oh, well that's true. Super end game though.
That's true.
He does it in response to Broodlords.
QXE sometimes gets Ravens, but yeah, the idea is that if the fact that we can't even say it's a common build. Really, the idea is that people kind of throw in a Raven as a mixture, but they don't really work it too often in their build orders. Raven's a really good sight to behold. Now, CrazyMoving, of course, he prepared a Spire during this entire time while he was getting pressured. The first few meters are out into the field. He didn't lose that many drones. In fact, Muslim only killed 7 despite having Hellions and Banshees, 2 things that drones are most afraid of in life. But he doesn't also have that many meals compared to normally is. He's just going to do some minor harass here. Shouldn't actually be able to do too much damage. And now that DeMuslim knows this, should be able to get up missile turrets in time.
Again, double expanding, and I think this lends itself to a nice 2-2 timing, except for the fact that DeMuslim did not get his armory in time. So you can see this 2-2 is kind of delayed. I do like where he is, though. These mutas are actually pretty weak. 0-0-2-1-1 Marines. Obviously, the Marines have a nice little advantage right there. I think a lot of different timings will hit CrazyMoving in a very uncomfortable state. And we might see the same thing as we saw last game, where he pushes out before 1-1 really finishes. But just because of the upgrades are so nice over his opponent, and his opponent is double expanding, it just hits where his opponent is droning and doesn't really have the capacity to make too many units.
Yeah, and CrazyMoving, he's just going to do whatever he can, but the airspace is getting tighter and tighter with positioning of Marines and missile turrets. There's not much room for CrazyMoving to flow around. DeMuslim slowly trying to lay a trap, and CrazyMoving has to sack one of those meters in order to get out of there in time. Meanwhile, he's getting all of his other upgrades, trying to catch up. But normally, Zergs, we've been seeing them go double Evo Chamber, trying to get ahead of Terran, but he's the one playing catch-up here.
And you know what? I think CrazyMoving is in a pretty comfortable situation. Now, how it's different from Belshire Beach, last game we had the push distance kind of nicer for him. I mean, this is a much bigger area. The mutas are also different. Of course, we don't have infestors out in the field. So the mutas are actually used to obviously stop his opponent from actually pushing out. Now, I like where the turrets are. I like how many turrets there are. You can see all these mutas have incurred that damage, but with the power of mules and the fast 3rd base, I think that the turrets aren't nearly as effective, or at least baiting those turrets aren't nearly as effective as CrazyMoving wanted them to be.
And CrazyMoving has to really be careful because Mutalisks, they need to be babysat really badly. In fact, oh no, CrazyMoving, his Mutalisks got completely cornered, but in fact, CrazyMoving just pretty much tanked it and sniped off his Marines, picking off one more tank. And CrazyMoving still making more Mutalisks, not necessarily preparing transition. Still needs a little bit more time for his 4 to really kick in. But now that he has 4 bases really comfortably and his creep spread is in a pretty good position where he can see almost every avenue of the map. Just like you said, I feel like he's really comfortable at this point. He's still droning very slightly, but he has also a squadron of Zerglings and Banelings in the bottom right. Is he going to try to lay a huge assault at third, Andre?
Oh, I think so.
Oh, he's got burrowed Banelings too. Fantastic.
Yeah, so this will be so helpful. He actually sees the units out here, but there is a Raven. Don't forget about that. The Raven is instrumental at defending against all this Baneling shenanigan. That's why I really like it. But the third is still undefended. It has a single bunker. I like the positioning against mass Zerglings, but against Banelings, it won't do much. And here we go.
Oh, he's going to go for the third immediately. There's almost nothing there. There's only one bunker full of 4 Marines, and that's not enough to really stop this onslaught. DeMuslim immediately running away. The SCV is trying to evacuate in time, but I don't think they will be able to. They run straight into the Banelings, and DeMuslim loses a huge chunk of his economy. As you can tell, that DeMuslim just going to go for a counterattack at the top left. CrazyMoving is going to defend his base as well. As CrazyMoving is immediately evacuating, they're going to trade base for base economy-wise.
The Infestor transition is kind of off-timed. He needed that about 40 or 50 seconds earlier, but now these Marines are just running wild. The Hive is actually on the way, but what does he have here? I mean, the position is already given up. Infestors are great at dealing with his opponent that has a ton of position, but at this point, it's going to be very difficult. Now going into the natural, and DeMuslim, I don't know if he can stabilize here, but he's looking pretty good.
He's not going back home anytime soon. His Marines are marching forward. Oh, CrazyMoving not paying attention. He needs every single fungal that could really reduce the amount of effectiveness of the Marines. He catches a huge glob of them on the right. As you can see, DeMuslim locked down in that position and make sure to take out a huge chunk of them. And CrazyMoving also summoned back all of his Mutalisks in his attempt to defend here. But at the same time, the Muslim supply is still really intimidatingly strong. Keep in mind, he also has 2-2 finished, making that really, really intimidating. And GG, CrazyMoving will tap out, giving DeMuslim a 2-0 victory.
Very nicely played by DeMuslim. And as we were talking about that one time, I mean, the Infestor switch is just off-timed a little bit. You need to clean up that 2-2 push. Yes. You need to invest more in just stomping down, surrounding it from multiple areas, getting those Zergling Baneling counts up as best as possible. But Infestor switches right there, I think, are the death of him. There's no way to actually stop that because you need a lot of Infestor energy. You need space. And when you're going this counterattacking style, you don't have either of those. You're giving up space to do critical blows. Infestors aren't good at, having those huge push-in attacks. You know what I'm talking about.
As if I was supposed to know exactly what that meant.
The surround.
I was like, an Ultralisk? I wasn't sure. Guys, of course, that game and series was brought to you by Azo, the people providing monitors for NASL Season 3. Pick one up for yourself at a discount. Go to azo.com. We'll be back with our next series of the day. It will be live as well. It will be Noni versus Hero. A really cool PvP, especially Hero coming off of his previous series against Squirrel. Definitely looking to prove his PvP. Don't go anywhere, guys. More action from NASL Season 3 coming up right after this break.